Have you ever been in one of those relationships? It starts with just incredible intensity, so much hope. You think, finally, this is the one. But then it doesn't just crash. It's more like this slow, cold creep. Things get distant. Maybe the affection just dries up, or you're just let down again and again. Now, for most people, right, if a partner keeps acting cold or flaky or even cruel, well, the choice is painful, but it seems kind of logical. You walk away. I mean, someone who keeps messing you around like that, they kind of forfeit the right to your time, don't they? But here's the real mystery we're diving into today. For some of us, that very moment, the point of serious failure, that isn't the exit sign. No, it's almost like that's the starting gun. That's when we dig in.
That's absolutely right. It's this boundless faith, almost untouchable, that some people have in a partner who is clearly, demonstrably unreliable. It just flies in the face of all logic. And you have to ask, why? Why do we give them so much leeway again and again? Why do we keep hoping against all the evidence, thinking that, if we just try a little harder, if we have one more talk, send one more carefully worded text, suddenly everything will magically shift.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because that feeling, that deep belief in someone who consistently lets you down, it's utterly exhausting. It really does trap you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In this sort of ongoing delusion that, yeah, okay, they're disappointing right now, but they're just about to turn a corner. Like you said, like waiting for a broken machine to suddenly start working perfectly.
Right. And think about the sheer mental energy that takes. You see the pattern clearly. Maybe they're withdrawn. Maybe they say really unkind things. They flake on important stuff. But then maybe yesterday they sent one halfway decent text message. Or you can remember 6 weeks ago, they gave this really sweet apology for something. And that tiny little crumb, that single fleeting bit of niceness, somehow becomes enough evidence.
Enough to build a whole alternate reality, yeah. Where you convince yourself, no, things are definitely looking up long term.
And that conviction,
Yeah.
it leads straight into all that effort you mentioned. Why is it always our job, seemingly, to steer the ship? We find ourselves constantly being the ones to apologize, to smooth things over, to make amends, even when we're the ones who've been hurt.
Yeah, why do we do that? Why take the blame?
Well, we start assuming we must have done something wrong to cause their coldness.
Yeah.
Because, and this is crucial, that self-blame, it can actually feel strangely more comforting than the alternative.
Hold on, that feels counterintuitive. How is blaming yourself more comforting? Especially as an adult, it seems kind of crazy to take responsibility for someone else's bad behavior just so you can keep hoping.
It does seem crazy from the outside. But what's fascinating here is that the reason for this cycle often isn't really an adult failing at all. It's more like a strategy. A really clever, though ultimately damaging strategy that we developed out of pure necessity way back when we were children. To get why we doubt ourselves now, we kind of have to look at this unwritten contract we might have been forced into as kids.
With childhood contract.
Yeah. It's highly likely we grew up in situations that basically required us to become huge believers in our parents or caregivers. And at the exact same time, huge doubters of ourselves. Just picture, say, a 4-year-old kid. Their whole emotional world, their survival, depends entirely on their parents. That child simply cannot afford to think, my source of life and love is just unreliable or maybe wounded or even just disappointing. They can't pack a little bag and leave.
Right, that would be terrifying. Existential terror, like you said.
Exactly. So the child's mind does this incredible psychological sorting process. If they can't see the parent as flawed or unstable,
Then the problem has to be internal.
precisely.
Yeah.
They conclude, okay, the love is there, it's reliable somewhere deep down, but I must be the reason it keeps getting withdrawn or messed up.
Wow. So we become experts at making excuses for others.
We become absolute geniuses at it. We spin these complicated, overly generous explanations for why people treat us badly, Oh, they were just stressed, they had a really hard day, they secretly love me, they just can't show it right now. That self-blame, that self-punishment, it was the only way to protect the core belief we needed to survive. The belief that the main source of love in our life could eventually be steady and good, but only if we figured out how to be perfect enough to deserve it.
And that sets up this high-stakes emotional game, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We develop this really expectant stance,
Yeah.
just waiting, watching, for whatever little scrap of affection or tension the parent might occasionally throw our way. We essentially get, wired to be excited by deprivation. It's bizarre.
It is bizarre, but it makes sense in that context. We learn that the real emotional charge, the adrenaline rush, doesn't come from steady, reliable care. It comes from the sudden, maybe unpredictable return of care after a period of coldness or absence.
Yeah, you can picture that scenario, can't you? All day long, maybe the parent was grumpy or silent or even sharp and hurtful.
Hmm.
And then right before bed, totally out of the blue, they might say one nice thing, ruffle your hair, ask about school with, like a genuine interest for a second.
Mm.
And that tiny moment, that brief shift away from the usual difficulty, that becomes the most thrilling, the most rewarding, maybe the most defining game of our childhoods. Appalling, but defining.
And this is the crucial link. This is where that past pattern connects directly, seamlessly to our adult relationships. As adults, some of us remain, well, kind of hopelessly addicted to that exact emotional tension. That cycle of pain mixed with continuous expectation, where you bounce between despair and then the sudden high of unexpected warmth. That whole dynamic has accidentally become our internal definition of what real passionate love feels like.
So love isn't consistency for us.
Yeah.
It's waiting.
It's waiting. It's waiting for a difficult, often unfulfilling person to just abruptly do a 180 and be nice again. It's that intense focus on hoping the partner who was maybe slightly kind at the beginning will magically bring back that initial thrill.
We're chasing the ghost of that childhood moment.
Absolutely. Chasing the high we felt when, against all odds, the warmth returned, even briefly.
God, the waste, though. The years we can pour into these situations, it's heartbreaking when you step back and see it. While maybe other people are finding calm, steady connections, we're locked into these exhausting scenarios, with people who mess us around, who are inconsistent, say one thing and do another, constantly blowing hot and cold.
But here's the really tricky part, the dark paradox, as you put it earlier.
Yeah.
That very instability, that chaos, that's often what keeps us hooked, it feels like. Engagement, high
What?
stakes.
If someone was just reliably nice,
Mm.
we might think they're bored or
Right.
indifferent.
Perhaps. That emotional roller coaster feels like effort, it feels like intensity, and maybe intensity feels like proof of life, proof of love. We stick with it because deep down, it's the only blueprint for love we really truly know. It feels familiar.
Which brings us to this idea of the nausea of kindness. That's a striking phrase.
It is, isn't it? And it describes something real. If we actually meet someone who is genuinely reliable, someone offering just a simple, steady exchange of mutual respect, sympathy, gentleness, we often react with, well, confusion, discomfort, sometimes even a kind of visceral feeling of wrongness, aversion.
Because it doesn't feel like love as we learned it.
Exactly. Simple kindness feels maybe boring, flat. It doesn't demand that intense psychological effort we perfected as kids. There's no tension, no sudden relief after deprivation, no high-stakes payoff.
It's like trying to switch from junk food to healthy food.
That's a great analogy. Your system almost rejects it initially, and very often we flee. We run straight back to the last unpredictable partner, chasing that familiar, painful but known adrenaline rush.
Okay, so if that's the trap, then getting free. Wow, that sounds like a massive psychological task. It means taking apart the very belief system that might have actually saved us back then.
It really does. We urgently need to start allowing ourselves to believe something our childhoods absolutely forbid us to think, which is that some people, sadly, just need to be given up on, full stop.
That's hard to swallow.
It is. We have to accept that some people who seem perfectly ordinary on the surface are, in fact, quite damaged internally. And they will inevitably exert a negative, maybe even corrosive effect on our lives, no matter how much we hope or how hard we try to fix them or the situation.
So it requires a huge shift in how we think critically about relationships.
A radical shift. It means we have to stop playing detective all the time. It is simply not our job to constantly second-guess these unfulfilling people, or to spin these elaborate, deeply empathetic stories about their troubled past or their hidden pain.
We don't need to understand their psychology more than they do themselves.
Precisely. We don't need to invest more thought into their motivations than they seem to care to invest.
That's incredibly difficult, though, isn't it? Because for years, maybe decades, our survival kind of depended on being hyper-aware of that unreliable person's inner state. We were trained, in a way, to read every subtle cue, predict their moods. Stopping that feels like giving up a skill we spent a lifetime learning.
It does feel like giving up a skill, but the real liberation, the freedom, comes when we realize the only thing that truly matters is their action. We need to look really closely and honestly at what they actually do, the consistent pattern of their behavior, the real impact it has on our lives, not the why, not the maybe possibly reasons they might be the way they are, their woundedness, their history, their bad moods, honestly. Those are their issues to sort out, not our lifelong assignment to understand and excuse.
So we need a new standard. A simpler one.
A single, simple, maybe even brutally clear criterion for deciding if we should be with someone.
And that criterion is,
Just this. Are they consistently kind to us?
wow, that's simple.
That's simple. Are they kind? That's the measure. It should be clear, non-negotiable.
So the rule becomes, if they used to be kind, but they aren't anymore, not reliably.
You need to leave.
And if they're only kind, say, 10% of the time, using those little moments to keep you hooked,
You need to leave.
and if they just promise kindness or show glimmers but never actually deliver it consistently.
You have to leave. It really is about choosing simplicity, choosing clarity, choosing reality over that complex, draining, historical tension.
And that then is the path to freedom. Breaking that addiction to the suffering,
Yep.
a pattern of pain and instability that, you're right, we didn't deserve as kids when we had no choice. And we absolutely don't deserve now as adults who do have choices.
Exactly. And if we just zoom out for a second, connect this to the bigger picture. The key realization is that this intense, boundless hope we sometimes feel for an unreliable partner, it isn't actually rooted in any adult reality at all. It's the echo, the powerful, deeply embedded legacy of a childhood that forced us, for survival, to keep faith with people. Well, with people that no free, independent person should ever have had to keep faith with. That hope, which once felt like a lifesaver, can now be the very thing holding you captive.
So maybe the question we leave you with today is this. What old contract, one that was necessary back then, are you still honoring in your adult life? A contract that maybe requires you to keep doubting yourself so you can keep clinging to hope in someone else. And just imagine for a moment, what would it actually feel like to choose simplicity? To choose stability, to choose reliable kindness over that exhausting, excited deprivation you might have gotten so used to.